I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all our participants and all of our speakers for today's session. Today's session is a very engaging one as we hope to highlight um, the approaches corporates and startups take in co-creating new innovations. We hope to demonstrate what the requirements are for successful engagement in co-creation and how innovators can leverage tools such as artificial intelligence and develop structured approaches to design new and original solutions. Before we continue, I would just like to welcome to the floor Dr. Florian Luetticken. Florian holds a master's in international relations and a PhD in EU trade policy. He is the team leader for governance, digital security, and human development for regional programs. For the past 20 years, he has specialized in EU, Latin America, and Caribbean relations, holding roles within the European Commission, including postings in Central America. Florian, welcome. We welcome you to give us some brief remarks from the European Union.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Yes, indeed, I will be brief because I'm well aware that I'm not the main attraction of this seminar. But I would like to, well, first of all, welcome all of you for participating and give you just an idea why the European Union is supporting these kind of initiatives and the digital accelerator and this seminar specifically. And that, like the European Union, and I think that is more important than ever in the times nowadays that we all are seeking for reliable partners. And we consider the Caribbean a reliable partner for many, many years. We have been negotiating side by side on climate change, on many issues globally. And we are cooperating on many things, on renewable energy, maritime transport, and digitalization is actually one of the most important ones. Why? For many reasons. Like when we nowadays we talk about digitalization, we always think about these huge companies from China, the US, that are dominant in their markets. But actually, digitalization concerns each and every company nowadays. And if you look, I can speak with more authority, although I have been here in the Caribbean for more than 4 years now, but I can speak with more authority about Europe. If you look at European economies, you find a lot of countries, new European member states, like the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovenia, a small island state like Malta, much smaller than Trinidad and Tobago here in the Caribbean, Czech Republic, Slovenia, I could go on. Many of those countries, they actually, when you look back 30 years ago, they had a per capita income, well, actually, to be honest, most cases lower than some Caribbean countries, or more or less at the same level to some. And nowadays they have really established themselves as world leaders in some areas, niche markets, and well, not only niche markets, and based on small and medium-sized companies who have embraced digitalization. So we think there is a lot that can be done for small and medium-sized companies, not only necessarily IT companies, but companies in general, to become more competitive, to really take advantage. And we think that these are win-win situations if we work together on digitalization. Because to give you one example, we work a lot on Earth observation data, or particularly on weather forecasting together with the Caribbean, between the EU and the Caribbean, which is, of course, we are all aware we are now getting closer to hurricane season. Some countries in the Caribbean are more concerned than others, but for many countries, it's really important. And this is something where they can really benefit, the Caribbean benefits a lot about the models that we are developing. I don't know if some of you remember Beryl some 2 years ago. Actually, so we have developed in Europe, apart from the traditional weather forecasting tools, also a kind of digital twin of the Earth that makes its own projections and predictions. And actually, with Beryl, it was the first time that the predictions of the digital twin that we had created, or that the European Weather Forecasting Center had created, were more precise than the traditional ones from NOAA, from the EU, from the Caribbean. So now we have cooperation between the institutions in the Caribbean and in Europe so that the Caribbean gets these data. They can run their own models, algorithms, and get the data. But it's also very beneficial for us in Europe because these institutions in the Caribbean share their in situ data with us, which then in turn improves our modeling much more, which even benefits us for the modeling and projections in Europe, because much of the weather comes from the Atlantic. So there are many areas of cooperation, and that is one of the reasons why we support the EU-LAC Digital Alliance, and specifically the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, which we find is a fantastic program that offers a lot of opportunities for companies who want to embrace digitalization and want to move forward. I mean, they have already built a platform that includes 400 corporates and more than 2,000 startups and small and medium-sized companies. There are already concrete partnerships between startups and corporates in Barbados, Dominican Republic, in Trinidad and Tobago, in Jamaica. So we find that it's a fantastic initiative. We are very honored to be able to support this. And yeah, we wish you I wish you a very fruitful seminar, that we hope that this will be really beneficial for you, and that you will enjoy the presentations that you're going to hear. So thank you so much, and yeah, have a great seminar.
Thank you so much for that, Florian. Thank you for those welcoming remarks and giving us some perspective to guide us this morning. Before we proceed, just a couple of house cleaning issues. You would notice that we have at the bottom of the screen a Q&A tab and a chat tab. Throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A tab to post your questions, and our team in the back end will respond to you as soon as we can, and we will continue to reply throughout the course of today's session. You will also see the chat box. Relevant links to what we will be speaking about will be posted there for the benefit of all the participants. So without further ado, we have an exciting lineup of speakers to share their knowledge and experience with us, and it would be remiss of me not to introduce them before we get directly into it. First and foremost, I want to welcome Mr. Eric Sonnier, who is the Innovation Ecosystem Advisor for Carib Equity, with over a decade of experience building and scaling tech-enabled businesses. He has raised millions as a founder and a CEO, and has a very strong record as an entrepreneur and strategist, co-founding and serving as CEO of Oliver Technologies. Early in his career, he's advised Fortune 500 companies as a strategy and operations consultant at Deloitte. He brings a wealth of experience to the table. Additionally, I would like to introduce Mr. Shawn de Freitas. Shawn is the co-founder of Dingole Limited, a Caribbean-based digital agency that specializes in user experience research and human-centered design. Dingole is pioneering the development of AR technologies in the region. Shawn brings a wealth of experience and has an academic background, a double major in economics and management studies with an MSc in interactive technologies from the University of Brighton. Shawn has worked with several companies across his 15 plus year career, including B-Sky, Flow Interactive, Nokia, and University of Brighton. Locally in Trinidad and Tobago, he has partnered with the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism and Mateo to develop an AR campaign to commemorate the centennial of the first recording of calypso music in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have a very, very experienced lineup with us here today. And before I get to Shawn, Eric, I want to come to you. We know that innovation is critical when engaging corporates, and many times replication tends to fail in these environments. Based on your experience throughout your career, from your perspective, why do so many startups fail when trying to work with corporates? And what fundamentally needs to change in how they approach innovation to succeed in that space?
Hey, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where everyone is. First, just want to thank you, Jonathan, and the team for inviting me. Honored to be a part of this panel with this distinguished group of individuals. So thank you for that. To answer your question, and I'll approach it from two different angles, really. One, you read my bio. I was a founder of a couple of companies in a past life, and then now I do a lot of work to help different founders throughout the region. One of the things that I've seen a lot of early stage companies or startups, innovative companies, whatever you want to call them, some of the issues that they've run into when they try to deal with large corporations is really not putting themselves in the seats of that corporation, right? So they're thinking about it from their product. I've made a great product. We all have. Everybody out there in the world should be ready to buy my product and pay me, and this is all going to be great. But they never take the time to sit down and say, okay, well, yes, I built a product, but what am I really doing? And you're really there to solve a problem for these large corporations. And there's a lot of dynamics within large corporations. Like we as startup guys and innovators, we typically have small teams. We're building fast. You can talk to everybody, in a couple of minutes and get everybody on the same page. But when you're dealing with large corporations, there's just multiple layers of bureaucracy, multiple sign-offs before something gets purchased. I'm sure both Shawn and Adrian and I, we've been in meetings where someone's like, okay, we want to purchase this thing. And we just say, okay, go ahead and buy it, right? But that's not how it works in large corporations, right? There's typically the champion, right? So you have to understand who you're selling to, who's the person that actually wants your product or your service or whatever it is you're offering this large corporation. And then finding out is that actually the decision maker, right? Because you might have someone who actually wants to purchase or work with you, but they might not be the one who ultimately has the purse strings and says, okay, well, you can actually make this purchase or not. So I think a lot of times we get stuck in the mindset that we've created this great product and everybody should want to buy it, and not really think about the dynamics of these large corporations and who you're dealing with, and getting them to understand that it is a product that they want, and how do we go about orchestrating this and maneuvering through your organization to figure out how we actually get that thing purchased. And then the second thought to that is really around you almost have to treat these large corporations like you're a consultant and these are your clients, right? And so you need to work with them to understand what their problems are. How can I fix their problems? The reason they're probably dealing with you is because, again, they're a large corporation and they see you as a small team that's innovative. If they had somebody on their team that could solve their problem, they probably wouldn't be dealing with you, right? So your job is to become a part of their team and figure out, okay, what is the problem? How can we solve it? If what we have is not exactly what you want, how can we tweak it so that it fits your needs? So I'll pause there, but those are two really big pieces, both from my own personal experience and then also from working with other founders of like, how do you navigate these large corporations, which is a completely different animal as we've already kind of talked about at the beginning of this call.
Apologies, I was
There you
muted.
go.
I think that I think that gives us a perfect segue into the actual when working with corporates, how do we change or what needs to change in the approach? And that offers us a perfect segue to Adrian. And Adrian is the founder of Star Apple AI, the first Caribbean AI company, with Adrian spending more than 15 years building AI across several industries. And Adrian, based on what Eric has mentioned, um, how can founders practically use technologies like AI to better understand these corporate challenges and design more relevant, original solutions before they approach a corporate partner?
Hey, morning, everyone. Audio's good?
All is good?
Yeah, great. So I'll start with his quick story to present that effectively, which is Star Apple, for instance. We were funded pre-revenue, and by happenstance, we ended up connecting with a corporate entity that supported our first capital raise. And by happenstance, I mean we spent about 2 months profiling them using AI. So we went through the annual reports, we went through their websites, LinkedIn, anything we could find to understand everything we could about the company. And we presented a solution that they needed but weren't able to get access to at the time. Due to what Eric is saying, a lot of red tape and issues. So we actually presented a full solution to them, and they actually had the chairman present that to their board in a meeting. In basically the biggest mic drop moment in a corporate environment you could think of, which is, guys, we've been trying to build this thing for 3 years. IT, you have dozens of persons. You know what the problem is. I've given the funding. Why can't you build it? IT said, well, we can't do it. There's nothing that exists. And he just put it up on the screen and showed them this is a solution. What's going on? So the big thing, the big value now with AI is UIC, understanding your customer, being able to do a full 360 profile of not just them, but their competitors and who they aspire to be. And you don't need 2 months, you don't need 2 weeks to that. You can do it in a day. So if you're approaching any single corporate entity, they're probably regulated, they probably have a parent company, there are probably local limitations, they may not have as much control over what they need to do and the purse strings. You can do a full psychological evaluation and roadmap and strategy to get in that room very quickly for free before you even talk to them to curate that solution. So right now, that barrier to knowledge for startup founders, entrepreneurs who want to get in that room is really, really tiny because all that information is available. Additionally, to be able to speak their language. So you may be very, very technically skilled in agentic AI, robot process automation, augmented reality, whatever it is. You're not necessarily domain skilled. You may not have a co-founder who can support you in approaching a dental office or approaching a shipping company or logistics company. But you can get enough information to be at a high level, a good understanding of their industry before you speak to them, so that when you go in there, you don't sound like you don't know what you're talking about. And the second really good benefit is Challenger framework. And the idea there is you want to simulate that conversation before you go to them. You want the worst case discussion. You want the embarrassing pause. You want the, oh yeah, we have that. We don't need this. Or this doesn't make any sense for what we're doing. And we don't have the capital for that. We don't need that. You want that conversation before you get in the room. So using AI, you can simulate individuals. I have boards that I report, and each of them has effectively a avatar version that I send the board reports to before I go in the actual meeting, because they're gonna try and rip it apart before I talk to them, no matter what. You have people in the room that just want to disagree with you. And the avatar version just disagrees with me before and gives me every dimension and angle that they're going to disagree with me. So when I get in there, there are a few board meetings I'm not allowed to go into anymore because they don't like that. But the idea is if you have an issue or you have a question, I have a response on the next slide. So that preparation, that understanding who you're talking to, and it's not highly technical. You can use any one of these tools to do that, but ensuring you have a plan of attack, because in my opinion, this is war. And you're trying to get in that room and you have enemies, but you don't even know who the enemies are. Utilize these tools to be overly prepared for that conversation.
Thanks for that, Adrian. And I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to be prepared. And I think that preparedness kind of additionally segues nicely to what I want to speak to Shawn about. Because Shawn, I know Dingole has been in that practical space, developing and co-creating. From your experience, Shawn, can you walk us through how Dingole evolved from the idea it was into something that corporates could engage with, and how your participation in programs such as the Digital Accelerator has shaped where the company is today?
Good morning, everyone. Let me start by saying that Dingole is two things really. So one, we are agency model where we have clients and we have to deal with corporates in the sense that they are clients. So we've dealt with the NGCs, the Atlantic, LNGs, energy sector, tourism, and all of that stuff. But then we have our own internal IP, and that is basically a project that we developed in-house. And that is a project where we invest a lot of our time and energy into innovation and developing. And that is a project that we actually took to the EC-LAC. So we'll focus on that to give you an idea of how we sort of got into developing our own internal IP and developing Panjam and that sort of journey. So basically, my dad was diagnosed with dementia years ago. He's now passed. And at the end of his journey in dementia, most of the time, he was just elsewhere. But anytime music was present, he was present. And that was an obvious thing. So that led me to think and to be curious about why music stays when everything sort of fades. And after he passed, I was still very curious about this. And I started to do my research. We didn't have AI at that time, but, reading journals and papers and understanding that, that there's a lot of neuroscience and science grounded in music as being this profound thing in terms of the brain. And I started thinking, well, if music has this profound effect, then why not create an application that would allow people to engage with music easier? And that was the initial sort of idea. And we built Panjam over different iterations and as a first thinking as a way to give some cognitive stimulation, to provide some basic brain activity, that will keep a senior active. We built Panjam and we tested it and we basically demoed it all over the world. And we knew we could observe that people were engaging with it and they were happy and they were having effective responses. But we didn't know what was actually happening in the brain. And that was important for us to try to understand. So we did a pilot in India where we applied some biometric data like through a third-party device. And while people were in Panjam, we would try to track what was going on in terms of their heart, basic biometric. But that was a very messy approach because we had to sort of put the data together and we weren't, it didn't yield the results that we wanted. I was on conference in Argentina and I met this team that were doing something very interesting called cognitive gaming. And basically, within a game experience, they were tracking certain activities within the game, right? And the founder of that company, Roy, we had a discussion. He played Panjam. He was blown away by it. I tried his game. I was blown away by it. And I said, we have to find a way to work together, because I think within what you're doing, I understand there's a solution. Around this time, AI was completely pervasive. So I was able to research and understand a lot more about how to do this cognitive analytics. And eventually the opportunity for the EC-LAC came up, and I contacted Roy and I said, listen, let's do a project. I want to transform Panjam from this cognitive stimulation sort of device, and I want to develop that into something that can track data and be able to give maybe a neurologist or a clinical professional some sort of supported sort of data in their decision making. And of course, this is quite different because now this is a VR environment. So we have a lot of spatial data, X, Y, Z coordinates. We have a lot of data to process. And of course, we were in an age where automation is there and AI is there. So AI could track the patterns and stuff. And basically, we entered the EC-LAC with this project. And during the time of the project, we were assigned to work with other corporates that supported us. So they had neuroscientists on the team that would evaluate. I mean, basically what we were doing was linking executive functions of the brain to the gameplay in Panjam to be able to create metrics that would then, analyze certain changes and behavior. And we actually did this throughout the duration of the program. And at the end of it, we are now at a stage where we are about to pilot this first data capturing sort of activity where we will be asking seniors to engage in playing the steel pan, which is the main interface for the music making experience. And we'll be able to track that data. And that data will give a continuous, not a single snapshot like traditional methods, but a continuous status of your brain health. And basically that's a very short version of our journey from my father's dementia to basically building out this tool.
Shawn, and I think that is a great example of how personal experience could shape innovation in and of itself. And if I could just ask one follow-up question on that, in terms of the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, bringing that to life, how was that experience for you?
Well, I think we came with something that was built. We came with something that was tested. So what we needed was expertise, to work with expertise to take it to the next level. So one thing that is big with the EC-LAC Accelerator is that idea of linking you with expertise, which would be beyond your environment. And we worked with Technalia. As I said, they had teams of neuroscientists. We were able to also work outside of the project with Atlantic Fellows, so we were working with neuropsychologists. So we had that expertise from internally in the accelerator that would support the development. And then we worked with Wyra, which basically linked us to basically marketing efforts in the Latin American region. So we were able to connect with other companies, with other institutions, hospitals that were ready to implement and host us as pilots. So, in terms of operating from the Caribbean and having that platform to engage with both Europe and Latin America, that was really one of the most beneficial things from the accelerator that we got from the accelerator.
Thanks for sharing that, Shawn, and thank you to all our panelists. I would suggest at this point, if there are any participants who have questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A chat. Our panelists will be here. We'll have a Q&A session coming to the end, so they'll be available to respond to those questions. So please, everyone, please, if you have questions, please use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of the screen. And I think, Shawn, you ended your presentation again perfectly for us to segue into our next section. And for our next section, I would like to introduce Mr. Miguel Rodríguez Villarreal. Miguel is an open innovation consultant for Octantis and part of the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator team. For the last 16 years, he has worked with companies and entrepreneurs to develop new businesses. He has also led startup incubation and accelerator programs. And over the years, he has gained a deep expertise on how corporates can innovate with startups, implementing emerging technologies to optimize operations and to find new revenue streams. Miguel, I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's my pleasure being with all of you today. I mean, really great insights. I can totally agree. I mean, selling, working with corporates normally is not only about the technology, about the solution. This is just the starting point, but it's about also understanding corporate politics and understanding how purchasing decisions are made. EU-LAC Digital Accelerator is also about this. I mean, about providing business opportunities for startups, for technological companies in Latin America and Europe, and also to provide some guidance during the first steps of working together. I think it was mentioned also by Eric. I mean, by default, corporates need reliable solutions, reliable partners. Innovation obviously requires testing, proving if emerging technologies could work into corporate processes. So it requires a lot of time, a lot of confidence between corporates and startups. EU-LAC serves as a catalyzer to initiate this process. So I will briefly share what we are doing, how Caribbean companies can benefit, and what's the journey we had so far. So let me very briefly share some slides so I can illustrate and provide some figures, and obviously any question you might have, or more specifically about the cases you are working on, more than happy to answer. As mentioned, EU-LAC is an international accelerator. Our goal is to promote partnerships between corporates and startups. We work with companies in Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and this is a program which is funded and supported 100% by the European Union. We are here in order to promote cross-border collaborations among regions and enabling companies working together. As mentioned before, I mean, the journey requires time to make corporates and startups working together. So we have designed a pathway which enable us from identifying needs, potential projects from corporates, to finding the right solvers across the regions, and defining together first innovation projects that could be deployed together and that could prove that the assumptions that both parties have may be right or not. So we have designed a journey. I'm not going to elaborate on this. We will share all the documents, and we can share obviously any questions you might have. But our main goal is to provide business and partnership opportunities for startups. I mean, what we do on a regular basis is to talk with customers, to talk with corporates, to identify their needs, to identify innovation projects that they have, and finding the right solvers in order to provide a solution for them. So far, we have achieved, or we have reached more than 100 opportunities. I mean, discussions, negotiations between corporates and startups, discussing about how to address a project together. So we have facilitated more than 100 relationships. And right now we are accelerating, or we are supporting 72 of them. So this is our goal. This is our mission. First of all, promoting or providing opportunities. And then for those opportunities who are finally signed, who are finally committing to do a project together, we have designed, or we have a program in order to provide expertise and guidance through the process. In our website, on a regular basis, we are providing some examples in order to serve as an example of what kind of partnerships we are promoting and we are supporting in different countries, different regions. So you can relate on them, and you can check what kind of work we have been doing during the last few years. We are really proud of having 7 companies from the Caribbean accelerated by EU-LAC. So we are really proud of this. We have the first 7 companies working with us, or being supported by the Accelerator. We have 2 more who are in the process of signing the agreements, and currently more than 14 challenges from Caribbean corporates are open into our platform. So we will be more than happy, and our goal is to engage as many Caribbean firms as possible. This is a starting point, and we will be more than happy to elaborate based on this. There are 2 ways to work with the Accelerator, or to get in touch with the Accelerator. First of all, we have a matching platform in our website. This works like a marketplace of digital challenge. Companies, they post their needs that they have, and here you can check all the challenge and all the needs that corporates are sharing with our community. You can log in on this through our website. And then we have twice a year we launch open calls. Those open calls are for companies who are already working with a partner in Latin America or in Europe. And what we are providing here is a set of services and some funding in order to initiate this relationship, to do a proof of concept, to do a pilot, and finally start working together. So in case you are already working in Latin America and Europe, the open call is open until the 12th of June. So we will be more than happy in order to get your message, to get your applications, and support your case, your partnership through the journey. We have defined several services in order to address the needs that startups, corporates normally have, from assisting to deploy a proof of concept, to assess the size of the opportunity, or to understand how to enter into a new country, into a new continent, or getting the funding, private, public, that may be required in order to scale. So we have defined a set of services that are free of charge for all participants within the Accelerator, and this is the way we have to support your projects. Additionally, we provide some grants. We understand that deploying a proof of concept is a really practical way to start working together, doing some tests, validating some hypotheses, some assumptions. So we provide some grants in order to cover part of the cost of this POC, even if it is required to travel or to send equipment. we will be able also to cover this cost. This accelerator is run and is made possible thanks to an international consortium from partners from Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, including Caribbean Export, which is the local partner in the Caribbean. So we are all working together in order to make this happen. And final remarks, and I'm not going to insist on this because the panelists, they have been talking about this better than I could. But some remarks. I mean, when engaging with corporates within our program, normally there are three things that corporates are looking for startups in EU-LAC Digital Accelerator. The first one is that they are looking for highly specialized teams to assess the viability of emerging businesses. I think it was mentioned already during the session. Corporates, normally they have their own providers. If they are looking to work with startups, is because they are running unclear innovation projects, or they want to test how emerging technologies could work and what impact they could have into their processes. So this is something that they are looking for. I mean, as specific we could be in our value propositions, in the skills that we have, the better or more chances we will have in order to get a contract with them. So they are looking for very specific providers and very specific solutions. So one thing that we normally say is do not try to cover everything. Just focus in one specific thing that you do well, and just focus on that when talking with corporates in EU-LAC. Secondly, the first way to start a relationship, to gain confidence, even more if we are talking about doing international projects, is to do a POC, to do a pilot project. I mean, this is normally for us the starting point to reduce technical risk and to validate assumptions. So don't try to sell a very large project from the very beginning. Let's start small. Let's do a first test, a first trial, so you can start gaining confidence. You can prove that your technology could work and that your technology could be integrated into corporate processes. So once again, start small with a pilot project, with a POC, normally in order to enter into large corporate. It helps a lot. And finally, we need to be aware that companies are not looking for only to do POC or pilots, but to integrate technologies into the processes. So it requires, for startups, for SMEs, to really work on hiring people, fulfilling with procurement, with the procedures that corporates have. So it takes time in order to become a trusted provider for a corporate. It requires funding. It requires scaling the team in order to be able to integrate technologies into the processes. So there are three main remarks or things that we feel is relevant for anyone who is starting a conversation within the framework of our program. We are, as mentioned, we are looking to engage as many Caribbean companies as possible. We will be in Barbados during the first week of June. Happy to meet you there if you are in presence. If not, you also have my email address here on the screen, so I will be really happy to talk about your specific cases and discuss if we could be of help in order to make your company grow. So thank you so much, Jonathan. I won't take more time on this. Thank you so much to everyone for this time.
Thanks for that presentation, Miguel. And let me just remind all participants, all the platform and registration for the digital connectors, for the matching platform, all those are shared. The links to all of those are shared in the chat. So we encourage all participants to view the chat and see all the relevant links as possible. I I've noted that a lot of the questions have already been dealt with by our team behind the scenes. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in that Q&A box. We have just about a bit over 10 minutes again for our session. And since we don't have any questions at the moment, I will just ask the panelists, Shawn, Eric, Adrian, briefly, if you could just give us some final words. Let's start with Eric.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me today. Very insightful. I would say in my own startup journey, we sold to very large financial institutions, and one of the hard lessons that I had to learn is dealing with large corporates is going to take longer than you think, and it's going to cost more than what you think. And unfortunately, the EU-LAC wasn't around. The Digital Accelerator wasn't around when I was going through it, but this is a solution to that problem, right? As everything Miguel just described is a solution to an issue that I had that, without investors who believed in the company could have cost us the company, because dealing with these large corporations, it's always good to have a partner like the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator to guide you through the process, to hold your hand while you're dealing with corporates. And Shawn talked a lot about that today. And then the last thing that I'll say is that you have to really treat this as a partnership between your organization and the corporates. And again, if you're dealing with EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, you have an additional help, guidance, and grant funding to help get you through that process. So I just think this is an awesome initiative, and should help more founders in the region get to at least get their foot in the door with a lot of large corporates. So thank you guys for putting this together and having me on today.
No problem. Adrian?
Start with the no. Don't be pessimistic, but you want to look at every possible way they would say no, not right now, we don't need it, and figure out what they do need. Like Eric said, it's a partnership, so you want to ensure that there's push and pull, obviously. You don't want to be a yes man or yes woman. You want to ensure that what you're providing will be useful to them, but also balance it with, can you actually get buy-in? And with the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, don't sleep on the opportunity. Just make sure you're prepared to take advantage of it, and you know everything you can about the companies that you want to partner with and work with.
Shawn?
Yeah, so I would like to tie some things in that Eric said and some things that Adrian said, and this is really for the Caribbean-based startup. Eric said that, being a startup, you're agile and you're quick, and that is an advantage in terms of how you would negotiate I think it's an advantage how you would negotiate with a corporate. And what Adrian is saying about being able to leverage automation and AI, those two things are the superpowers for the startup. And this is how we were able to sort of maneuver in this space to have serious conversations with corporates. So I think just to underline that, the agility, being able to innovate, being able to move very quickly, and now you have the backing of automation and AI to do your research, to do, to just automate certain workflows. I think that with this leverage, any Caribbean startup could act in a bigger space.
Thanks for that. With that, I would just like to say thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Miguel, for sharing your insights and expertise. As we close off today's session, I would just like to share that the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator really harps on promoting open innovation, which sometimes may seem scary for us here in the Caribbean, but is something that we should embrace. The EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, through, as Miguel would have mentioned, our Digital Connectors program, provides a practical framework for us to get open innovation challenges from the Caribbean to put forward to connect across regions via Latin America or Europe to connect technologies with challenges that we have here in the Caribbean. Alternatively, it gives an opportunity for our digital startups here in the Caribbean to work with companies or corporates in Latin America and Europe to get that level of exposure. So it brings together two sides of the coin. It brings together Caribbean corporates and it brings together Caribbean digital startups. For all that we have discussed today, particularly the Digital Connectors Program, we will be having an in-person session, as Miguel would have mentioned, right here in Barbados on June 4th. The relevant links to sign up will be placed in the chat if it isn't already there. We highly encourage each and every one of you to take a serious look at it if you're a digital startup or if you're a corporate seeking a digital solution.